What does music do to you? What I mean by what does music do to you?
No. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Musicians Musings podcast. I'm Gunnar, your host, along with my two compatriots, Scotty Blair and Michael Mark.
I still think we need a little intro jingle.
Well, this will have to do until then. Are you going to say hi, Scotty?
All right.
Hi.
Cool. Now you can ask your question.
So what I mean by what does music do to you? When you listen to music and different types of music, different genres of music, different songs played on different instruments, how did that, without sounding too much like a psychologist, how does that make you feel? How does that, both physically and spiritually, emotionally, what kind of effect does that have on you?
Well,
Kind
I have my I'm Sad playlist on Spotify that I listen to a lot when I cry myself to sleep.
Which is every night, because you're not as good a banjo player as Michael.
Which is only every other night. It's too hard.
Well,
You know, now that I... now that's an interesting... That's an interesting question, because what was... There's a Chopin quote I always think of when I'm sad and I play music.
Can you quote that? Or,
I'm looking it up.
okay.
so for me, if I'm listening to bluegrass music while I'm driving, it makes me speed.
Like, I'm assuming that means fast bluegrass music, like Train 45.
Yeah.
No, when he listens to Blue Moon in Kentucky.
Anything drivey.
And then it starts going really fast.
Yeah. Anything over like 75 beats per minute makes me go faster than 75 miles an hour. That's usually the BPM of the song.
That's the rule.
BPM of the song correlates exactly with the miles per hour that I'm going.
Wait, seriously?
You should see me listen to Ricky Skaggs.
Like when they play Black Eyed Susie and he's just zooming down the highway.
He goes, "Zing."
Yeah. Like, I can drive the
I don't have
entire
that.
length of Highway 40 in the time it takes to listen to Highway 40 Blues.
Got them Highway 40 blues.
Good thing you brought up Highway 40 Blues, because that's kind of an interesting thing. So, people that know me know that I'm not a very emotional person, or at least I don't seem that way on the outside.
Extremely stoic.
No, he's not an emotional person at all.
Extremely
I'm
stoic.
not. Yeah, they can.
Unlike me, I'm a very emotional person if you've ever met
on
me.
the outside, I'm really stoic, and I actually have trouble expressing my emotions sometimes. But I do feel a lot of emotion, and music definitely does. Music definitely does make me feel emotion, and I found personally that there's a specific chord progression in sets of chords that make me feel certain ways, and not just sad. There's a lot of songs that make me feel maybe not necessarily happy, but maybe energized. I'm trying to think, maybe like a fast Daly and Vincent kind of song, or a Ricky Skaggs, and I find that sometimes I actually feel kind of nostalgic or sad, if you will, even in upbeat songs like Highway 40 Blues.
Oh, yeah.
I literally do not identify at all with Highway 40 Blues. Like, I'm a city boy, okay? But it still makes me kind of emotional and reflective, especially when Andy Leftwich plays the fiddle fills on the second verse. You know what I'm talking about?
His violin playing makes us all feel emotion.
It is the perfect... Anyway, it's the perfect set of fills for that verse. And, you know, the song talks about just being very desperate, being really just in a low point, and you hear that fiddle wailing in the background. It's kills me, but
It's truly a masterpiece.
and as well when the guitar solo finishes. Guys, if you haven't heard Highway 40 Blues and you're listening to this, go listen to it.
You should also make sure you listen to Nate's version too.
Oh, that's killer. It's minor and modal. But Highway 40 Blues, preferably if you can find the version with Jim Mills, Cody Kilby, and Andy Leftwich. But
And then
when
the version
guitar
with Nate
solo,
Burie.
So in that song, when Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder does it, the guitar solo ends and it goes into the fiddle doing the chorus. And that point is really, it's like a burst of emotion almost. And I don't know how to describe it. I'm not a psychiatrist. But
Psychologist.
really going, whatever you want to say, psychologist, psychiatrist. But really going into that 4 chord, when you make, and the guitar plays that at a D position, and it's going to a G chord, which makes the 4 chord. I think G just might be my favorite 4 chord. It's
You're
just
a banjo
so
player,
powerful.
so it's your
And
favorite
I'm a
chord in
banjo
general.
player. No, I am also a guitar player, and playing out a D and using G as my 4 chord there's something very powerful. G is such a that G position where you have
Yeah.
2 octaves spanning three.
Most
three
of
G
very, it's a
strings.
very, very
2
wide
D.
voiced chord.
Yeah, especially if you do the power chord where it's just G and D, the 1 and the 5. It really does lend a lot of power because you have that bass and you have the highest string as well.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very, very wide voiced chord doing that.
And things
so
like that.
makes sense.
Songs with 1, 4, 5, and 6 minor, kind of, and not all songs with 1, 4, 5, and 6 minor, because there are songs that use the 6 minor in a fashion that kind of gives the song a sense of, I don't know how to describe it other than epicness. Maybe you can give a better word. And then
Epicness.
there's songs
I
that
mean,
use
that's
that.
a pretty good
And
description,
then
I
there's
think.
songs that use that chord as to give a sense of sadness or nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I found that quote. Yeah, there's 2 of them. Okay, so the one is, where is the one? It's not Chopin. It's Liszt commenting on the music of Chopin in one of his letters. Okay, so it's those inexpressible sorrows to which the pious vent in their communication with their maker, what they never say except upon their knees, he said in his palpitating compositions. I like that quote.
Yeah, that's good.
That sounded really
And then the
cool.
other one was, sometimes I can only groan and suffer and pour out my despair at the piano.
So, I will say there's some music, not necessarily upbeat or particularly major, but some music just like makes me really like joyful, happy. Like if I'm listening to it, I can't wipe the smile off my face. I'm just like
Oh yeah.
really happy. And there's some music, and I enjoy them both equally. There's some music not necessarily slower or particularly sad lyrically or melodically, but some music makes me feel very nostalgic or kind of melancholy a little bit,
Sure.
but it's like in a good way somehow. And I will
Yeah.
say it does tend to be slower or minor pieces that make me feel that way, and major or faster pieces that make me feel, the other way. But
Which is how we usually, stereotype it.
yeah,
Yeah,
Fast,
that's
happy songs.
but it's
Yeah.
not. It's not always that way.
Yeah.
But because like there's some like waltzes that I'll listen to that are like super pretty and just make me really happy, But I find that I enjoy both of them equally. And I might even enjoy the sadder ones a little bit more. Which
Yeah.
I listen
'cause-
listen to sad music more than I listen to happy music for sure.
And if you guys remember on this during the sinking of the Titanic, they had the band come out and play.
Mm-hmm.
And before it got really late in the night, they were playing cards. They called out the band and they played ragtime. They played fast songs, happy songs, to get people's minds off the brevity of the situation. But as the night drew to a close, as death came nearer, they played hymns, and they played
Right, near my
things
got to
that-
be.
Yeah, that's what they. I think that's what they went under with, wasn't it?
Supposedly.
That
Yeah,
was the
that's the-
story.
And songs like that make you think about the. They make you focus on. They get your brain in the right place to thinking.
Yeah.
Right.
This is really, I'm a human, and I'm not God, and this is.
So
I
why
can't do anything about the situation right now.
why does music bring forth such an emotional response from people? How does it differ from, any other grouping of sounds?
I think it's first of all, there are other groups of sounds that make people feel those emotions. For instance, maybe a really inspirational speech. It really stirs up the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And when you combine music with lyrics, words that make people think, it kind of doubles the effect. So there's one thing to listen to a really sad song, but the lyrics are just junk, like a lot of bluegrass songs. Just random songs that were written sometime in the slave era, and the lyrics mean absolutely nothing to you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you listen to things that both have, especially, spiritual songs, Christian songs that really speak to you, and the music really fits it, that it creates a more powerful effect in that. Whereas if you have the music and the lyrics going in opposite directions.
Which is also an interesting thing, because in most bluegrass music, the music is very happy and upbeat, but the lyrics are usually
Yeah.
very sad and or murderous.
I mean, some of those.
That's true.
So on the subject of other groupings of noises, do y'all find are there other non-human noises that make you feel a certain way? Like maybe cars going up and down the road, or the sound of the ocean, the wind, the rain, I don't know, birds. Do those bring out an emotional response in you, or are they just like background noise?
Can you hear snow?
If it's really snowing, you can.
If you have very
I love the sound of
acutely
snow, and I
tuned
haven't
ears.
heard it in a while though.
You live in Florida.
I live in Florida.
You're never gonna hear it again.
From Chicago though, and I love the snow. And then I moved to Florida.
But do y'all find you have a particular emotional response to any particular ones of those, and any that you don't?
Sometimes it just depends
Trying
on
to think.
what I'm thinking. Sometimes something will happen and I'll think of someone or some experience. It just depends on what it is and what I'm thinking of at that moment.
Maybe if I'm in the right mood, the sound of cars, like a bunch of cars going by. I
That
don't know,
normally just
'cause I
fills
love
me with
traveling.
rage.
Rage?
Like cars. Rage.
Do you have
Kinda
songs
like when
that
I-
fill you with rage?
Old Joe Clark.
That's in a different way, though. Let's play Old Joe Clark.
Wagon
I know
wheel.
we just
At
jammed
the-
it last night and the night before that.
And
but
the night
let's
before
take
that.
it
We
nice
weren't even
and
together.
slow.
Let's do it at the brisk pace of 2 BPM.
1, 2, 3.
That's pretty fast for old Joe Clark.
Da, 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 da.
That's way too fast.
Like that.
That's
That's
way too
almost
advanced.
tolerable. That's like I could actually play a bass solo to that and enjoy it.
You could do a nice walking bass on that. Ba-da-bum-bum. Yeah, you could do a nice. Yeah, that would be fun.
I do-
That would be a nice tempo.
I do nice walking bass in general.
How about minor songs? So
Minor songs like
Minor
Big
songs-
John.
minor songs like Wayfaring Stranger. Do
Songs
those make
about
you
minors?
sad?
Yes.
Or do they?
No, sort of.
So makes you sad. I don't find it makes me sad. It makes me sort of, I don't know, spooked. The minor sounds.
It's a very haunting. Well,
yeah,
the
minor sounds.
the saddening is when it resolves from a major to a minor. That's what brings the sorrow, at least in my mind.
Actually, I find when it resolves from the minor to the major, it's kind of when the emotion comes in. See, I don't.
Well, I mean, I just mean that going from major to minor or vice versa. Whereas in Wayfaring Stranger, when it's minor to minor, it doesn't
find.
It doesn't have the sorrow as much as it has the what you said. It's kind of spooky, kind of. I'm trying to think of the word I would use to describe it. The technical.
Yeah, in minor songs, we often characterize a minor sound as being a really sad sound, but I find the sad major sounds are more sad than the sad minor sounds.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because with a major, you still have a touch of happiness, and that's what makes it sad.
Yeah. Like if you listen to Ashokan Farewell, which is...
It's Ashokan Farewell, I think.
Same difference.
What did you just say?
I think it's Ashokan Farewell. I just don't want to be embarrassed in front of the entire internet.
If you listen to the Ashcan Farewell...
The Ashcan.
It's Ashokan.
If you listen to the
anyway,
if you listen to A Shocking Farewell,
a show,
the tune is entirely major. Like there's no minor in it except for the flat 7, which isn't even minor so much.
But the chords.
But that song,
the chords have minors.
The chords have minors, but the melody is entirely just the major scale, and the minor chord only shows up once or twice. But
it's still there.
But it's not the whole song, and it doesn't make the song sad. The song just is sad.
Especially if you read the lyrics that are associated with it, I think. Unless I'm just making that up.
Afterwards, there's like two sets of afterwards, there's like two sets of lyrics that are. Oh, what's the guy's name who wrote that?
Jay Unger.
Yeah, that are officially endorsed by him. Basically, there's two sets, I think. Because he didn't write any lyrics.
I'm pretty sure he wrote that during the Civil War, right?
No, he wrote that in the 70s.
He did not write it during this. He's still alive.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
And speaking of music that makes you sad, and I'm going to step outside of music for a second also. Do y'all ever find that beauty in general causes you to feel sadness or sorrow?
Yeah. Like, if I'm looking at a really nice snowfall, and
we're back to snow.
Perfect. I get really nostalgic about snow.
And it's
if I'm looking at a really beautiful guitar that I can't afford.
But it's like it's a sad feeling, right? But
yeah,
I always get sad because I start contemplating our own mortality and how everything will come to an end. That's normally when I look at pretty things. I'm like, well, in 30 years. Who's gonna care about this really pretty guitar I'm looking at? Or in a half an hour, who's gonna care about this really nice food I'm looking at? Or in 300 years, this mountain might not even be here. We might not even be here. We might be.
Can we start a GoFundMe to get Scotty a therapist?
No, we need to get Justin Bond a therapist. Remember?
Right.
But we need to get.
If you're listening to this, have you seen Banjo Ben's Undercover Boss episodes?
Yes, I watched those.
You should go watch them.
Joey put my brother put those on the other day, and my mom watched all of them. And she said, that really wasn't as funny as I thought.
Yeah, we'll link them in the show notes. It's kind of cringe humor.
My mom was just like, that was underwhelming.
Anyway, we won't spoil it for those of you who haven't seen it. You need to experience the journey.
$25 gift card and up to 8 months of therapy.
Don't spoil it. Anyway.
Would you guys at least give me 9 weeks?
I would give you 10 weeks, buddy.
it means a lot.
So that sorrow or like that nostalgia that you feel when you're looking at something beautiful, it's like a very sad feeling, right? But do you find that that feeling of sadness brings you any joy?
To some extent. My
Yeah.
dad and I, for I think the past 8 years, have gone to this camp, and it's like father-son camp, and there's maybe three other fathers and sons that regularly go. And we reserve this. It's just a beautiful campsite in Oakland, Illinois. Like, who's ever heard of Oakland, Illinois? But
Didn't you talk
woods.
about this on the forum because you were asking about your guitar?
I did talk about that.
Yeah, I've heard of Oakland, Illinois.
But there's woods, and there's a little lake that they have just in the state park. And it's honestly, I get nostalgic just looking out at standing there on a little like wooden dock, the kind that bounces in the water, and looking out at the blue water and at the campsite and driving out of there. It's a very lonesome feeling, to be honest, especially since we're not sure if we're going to go back next year. So, how about different instruments? When you listen to different instruments, do you feel like there's certain emotions that those bring in a general sense with them, or do you find that it really depends on just whatever music is?
Banjos are happy, I think. Banjos are pretty happy sounding.
Banjos,
Except when they want to sound mad.
Banjos are either
Except when
happy
they
or obnoxious.
Or mad. They're like mad. 'Cause
Mad, happy, or obnoxious. Those
I
are the
find-
three banjo options.
like a furious sounding. Because when you have that real...
Like the Jim Mills bluesy.
When you have that real modal driving banjo.
Yeah. Or when someone ruins a slow song with a banjo.
I find that the spoons always fill me with unreasonable rage.
What about ukuleles? They're happy sounding.
Don't even talk to me about ukulele. I mean, ukuleles have their use.
It's just a very small use.
They have a very small use, like smaller than banjo.
Ukuleles are the worst. There are people who sound really good on ukulele. Look up on YouTube Jake Shimabukuro playing While My Guitar Gently Weeps on the ukulele. If you're wondering how to spell that, if you're wondering how to spell that name, it's the usual spelling, Jake space Shimabukuro. It's really cool. Or look up Kalei Gameio playing Mach 4 on the ukulele. That is also ridiculously fantastic.
I find guitar to be, well, maybe I'm biased because I play guitar. But if I listen to a song, or if I just go around listening to different instruments, guitar to me always seems, if you will, the main character. Like if I'm watching a movie and there's the main character, guitar is always the main character for me. Is that just because I play guitar, or do you find that's...
I'm thinking of I keep thinking of quotes of composers. I listened to an interview of Segovia, and he was talking about finding composers to compose for classical guitar. And in the interview, he was talking about how every time he would commission a composer to compose a piece for him, that after that, the only thing they would ever compose for is guitar, because they find it such a beautiful and intricate instrument compared to everything else. They love the voices, and they love...
Segovia?
Yeah, they love
I'll have to look that
the
up.
dynamic and the timbre of it, and now the versatility of everything.
I find that guitar is a very versatile instrument. It's almost like...
Especially when it's played classically.
Yeah, and there are other instruments that are specialty instruments, and there are other instruments that are still very versatile, but maybe they're not as portable, like the piano.
I
Like
love pianos.
See, I was going to say, I think, in my opinion, the piano is a better instrument, like objectively, the piano is a better instrument than guitar.
See, I would agree in certain circumstances. In a classical circumstances, I would agree. But with guitar, you can get different sounds. With piano, you have like standard sound, then damper pedal sound, and then
In the interview, he talks about that. He says he can, and he showed we're playing it in different positions on the neck, playing with different angles with his right hand in the nails, playing in dulce, and then playing in ponticello, and all the different things. And he showed we can sound. It's all the instruments of an entire. I can bring out all the emotions that I can pull out all the emotions that an entire orchestra of instruments could pull out in their timbre with just the guitar. He can
and
make.
If you don't believe that, go watch Tommy Emmanuel.
Or
literally
him
Andres Segovia.
Yeah, because it's way better than.
If you want to see, if you want to have some emotions brought out, go look up on YouTube, Recuerdos de la Alhambra.
Boom, he did it. I know that piece. That's
RECUERDOSDE.
We'll put it in the show notes.
ALHAMBRA. It's an incredibly beautiful classical guitar piece. Listen to it all the way through, while you're cooking dinner or whatever, and keep a box of Kleenex handy.
Yes. The classical guitar is officially the prettiest instrument known to man.
Actually, I think
This
I
is
think
not
the
true
piano
because
is.
saxophone.
No,
exists.
it's not. My sister, she's a harpist, and she says her favorite. She loves listening. She loves when she's home. She says she loves listening to me play my classical guitar.
I think piano is honestly more beautiful than classical guitar.
I don't think so.
I think so. Piano can make me feel pretty much any emotion. Guitar can make me feel pretty much any emotion. Banjo can make me feel 3 emotions. And the voice can as well. And when you have a really touching, like I was saying earlier, a really touching story in a song combined with the right chords, the right melody. Have you ever heard Balsam Range's Trains I Missed?
I like that song.
That is a really touching song, even though it has a banjo in it.
Even though it has a banjo in it.
Even
though it has a banjo in it. And it's the
Even though it has a
story.
banjo.
If you haven't heard it, go look it up.
It's a nice song.
It's in the show notes. And it's the story of someone who's, like, their life was in kind of distress. They didn't know which way to go. They're regretting past decisions. But God worked it out, and they found out how to be happy in any circumstance, basically. Would you agree that's a pretty good interpretation?
Yeah.
Send me a link to that.
You haven't heard that song?
You haven't heard that song?
No.
You don't listen to Balsam Range?
What?
I don't listen to Balsam Range that much either.
I don't have any streaming services, so I listen to CDs that I own. And because I'm kind of poor, I don't own that many
It's
CDs.
on YouTube, dude. You can listen to it.
I only listen to whatever CDs Michael Mark gives me out of his guitar case.
I gave you one CD out of my
I've
guitar
been
case.
listening to the same CD on repeat.
It's a
for
great
the
CD to
past-
listen to on repeat.
That was a good CD, yeah. On the subject of emotions, are different emotions allowed in bluegrass?
Yeah.
Different emotions. What do you mean by that?
Bluegrass is allowed to make you feel like happy and energetic, and it's allowed to make you feel like sad or to make you feel like killing your wife. Is there anything other than
I think you can feel with the instruments and in the range. I think you can feel the full breadth of human emotion in bluegrass music, because I feel like I can. Now, it might be less bluegrass. It might not be. You might have a different.
Let's see. Bluegrass music.
And it still be.
So let's give examples.
It depends on where we draw the line of bluegrass and where you just go into acoustic music. Like, what do you consider when Nate sings by himself and plays the guitar? Would we consider that
I wouldn't
bluegrass?
consider that bluegrass necessarily. Dennis Parker, for instance, I wouldn't necessarily consider all of that bluegrass, and I love that CD, Songs Under the Air Conditioning.
But it would still be
But
good.
yeah, I mean, I like kind of transcending genres to an extent and just thinking of it as music. When we talk about transcending genres, what instruments from other genres do you think can be used in bluegrass and actually sound good with bluegrass instruments, even if it's not
Accordion.
accordion? If you're playing
Ukulele.
Celtic
No.
music, accordion sounds great with bluegrass instruments.
No. Accordion
Concertinas sound even better than
accordion
accordions.
is great in bluegrass, and I'll prove it with 2 words. Jeff Taylor.
Bill Monroe.
Yeah, I like
Monroe
Jeff
had one in
Taylor,
his band.
and I don't like hearing accordion with bluegrass music unless it's more Celtic music, the Celtic side of bluegrass. And
Okay, well, you're wrong.
I mean, what's an example of accordion that sounds really good with, like, I don't know, Foggy Mountain Breakdown? It doesn't.
Literally, if you put Jeff Taylor playing Foggy Mountain Breakdown on the accordion, it would be the coolest thing ever.
I don't think so, man.
But, okay,
I think it would be pretty cool.
what do y'all think about harmonica in bluegrass? I know you
No.
hate it, Michael. What do you think,
No.
Scotty? Okay.
No.
So, hang on.
Although, in the Party Barn, when that video with Russ and when Buddy Greene does it, it's
Yeah.
a pretty cool solo on Cherokee Shuffle. But I wouldn't consider that jam a bluegrass jam by any means. That's a
yeah, it's more
old-time.
like an old time jam.
Yeah.
Fiddle tune jam.
It's an old time jam. Like Russ wasn't even wailing away on his
Well,
Crowe.
Ed Climb.
Give me just a second.
There was a whole one banjo. It was some fiddle players, some guitar players, and some mandolin players, and
Okay.
then a harmonica player and a banjo
My-
player.
My
Harmonica player.
alarm that I've set on my phone every morning is a recording off of Buddy Greene's album. I think it's his album Harmonica Anthology. If not, it might be off of Happy Man. It's Wheelhouse. Okay.
On harmonica.
You know, yes. And it is extremely driving. It's not old time at all. It's 100% hard driving bluegrass. Banjo players rolling away at 100 miles an hour. Brian Sutton ripping a guitar solo. The whole works. Led by a harmonica. And it sounds awesome.
I mean, I like
That's
harmonica.
interesting.
I have a harmonica. I was playing my harmonica the other day, but I don't think it fits in with I don't think there's
Yeah.
a need or anything for.
I wouldn't
it
want to
in
hear
bluegrass.
Doyle Lawson and Quicksilver with a harmonica
But
Yeah,
okay,
I
but
wouldn't
why
want to
not?
listen to them either.
because it doesn't.
Because it kind of
doesn't
kills the
fit.
vibe.
If Ricky Skaggs and Kentucky Thunder with a harmonica, maybe, but
I still don't
mean,
think it
when
would
they
fit.
play some-
harmonica is functionally, if your harmonica player knows what he's doing, it's functionally not really any different than a fiddle.
no, it's functionally not any different than a kazoo.
But
is
it's
what it is.
You're functionally not any different
No,
from
it's
a kazoo.
not. It can fit the same. You could have a saxophone player play,
Yeah.
and he could do the same role as a fiddle player, but it wouldn't be the same.
Okay, I disagree, because Sierra Hull had a saxophone player in her band, and he played fiddle, honestly, better than a lot of fiddle players do on his saxophone.
No, he didn't.
Well, it's not how well it can play, and it
The
can
only
work and it can
time
sound good,
it's
but I
okay
wouldn't
to have
consider.
a saxophone in bluegrass is when it's not bluegrass. If it's Tony Rice, Me and My Guitar album with a bunch of sad love ballads, and there's a saxophone and piano and drums, that's okay. Anything else? No.
Okay, so how do you define bluegrass?
Bluegrass is music made emphasizing the offbeat with banjo, guitar, mandolin, fiddle, bass, and occasionally dobro. And
What about the fact that Bill Monroe literally had an accordionist and a harmonica player?
Yeah, but that
in
was
his band?
that was the Celtic side of
And he,
bluegrass.
how about the fact that he did? Hey, Michael. How about the fact
I
that
don't
Bill
really like
Monroe
that either.
does not like dobros?
What about the fact that
Only Jerry
Bill
does.
Monroe made Sonny Osborne drive his
I love-
car like 100 miles an hour, got pulled over, they threw Sonny Osborne in jail, and Bill Monroe made him pay his own fine?
I never said I endorsed everything Bill Monroe ever did.
I think you did.
I did not.
Okay, did y'all hear about the photo of Bill Monroe holding his entire band on a post over his shoulders?
What?
Supposedly,
Wait, what? I want to see that picture.
this was a trick that Bill would do quite frequently. He would take like a big stick and like put it over his shoulders, and he would have every member of his band at the time like grab onto the stick, and then he would pick them all up at the same time. This was before Chubby Wise played fiddle with him.
I'll look it up later, but this has nothing to do with the podcast. A lot of this stuff.
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't want to say it.
Well, I'm trying to give you.
This is total fluff. Nobody's gonna want to listen to this.
What? This isn't fluff.
The
Literally.
topics.
Oh, everyone's gonna want to listen to this.
Yeah, laughter is an emotion.
I like emotions. Speaking of emotions, how about this?
Okay, harps, yes or no?
This here's a excerpt from some guy talking about it. He said, "Orphan child. The dobro is the orphan child that Bill Monroe refused to recognize.
Oof.
If you've got a mandolin, a banjo, and a dobro all playing fills, it could get too busy."
Yeah, at the same time, if you have a guitar and a bass and a banjo playing fills, it can get too busy.
If you have a banjo player, it can get too busy.
Exactly. You can be too busy anyway.
Okay, harps, yes or no?
Harps are cool.
In bluegrass.
Oh yeah, the Band Jubilee is epic.
Are they bluegrass?
They're gospel first, so they're
Celtic.
like gospel and bluegrass and Celtic.
And it's super cool. I say they count as bluegrass, and I think that she does a great job. Which one of them plays the harp again?
Georgia.
I can't even. Do you think they would hire me? Do you think they need a guitar player?
No, Judah plays guitar, and he's really good.
Oh man.
And if they were to need a guitar player, I think
I wouldn't get hired.
Kenny Glish or Colin Glancy or me would all be ahead of
Also,
you in the line.
Are there any more siblings, or is it just those three?
No, there's 3 more younger than that, but they don't play.
Yeah, so they'll probably be the next. If they need a guitar player,
Well,
they'll just be like, "Hey,
None of them play.
wait, what?
They don't play.
That's weird."
Well, your sister plays harp, right?
Yeah, my sister plays harp. I can start my own Band Jubilee. My one sister plays violin, and one plays a harp, and my mom can play bass, I guess, and I can be the banjo one.
That's literally the Band Jubilee, but
Sounds
off
like-
wish.com.
My sister has a golden harp though, so it's cooler.
So what kind of emotions do you think the harp incites?
The same ones as piano, plus classical guitar.
Really?
No,
Yeah,
the classical
sort of.
guitar I can pull is way more versatile than that.
Harp, I mean, this might be a little bit of a stereotype, but to me it sounds a little bit more wistful, kind of more things you could imagine that are a little less rooted in reality.
Right, a very dreamy
It doesn't
sound.
sound real.
Not that it doesn't sound... Actually, it doesn't sound real.
I mean,
But, I mean, I think it'd definitely be tastefully used, but
okay, so here's one.
it's...
Hammer dulcimer.
Ooh.
I love hammer dulcimers. I'm definitely
D-
having
it
one in my
can-
band.
Does
You can get the same effect, not the same effect, but you can get a similar effect as a piano with a hammered dulcimer.
well,
it can fill
it
a
sounds
room.
very similar to a harp as well.
Yeah, but you're hitting... I mean, honestly, they're so cool.
Do they belong in bluegrass?
I think they can
No.
be in bluegrass.
If you bring it into bluegrass, it's not bluegrass, it's old time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kinda
I
true.
won't argue with that. That's kind of true.
Yeah, but then we're back into the mincing genres and where you do draw lines and
Okay.
everything.
So, do y'all find old time to be as boring as Libby finds it? Or do y'all...
For those of you-
It depends on who it is, what songs they're playing, and everything. 'Cause sometimes
Gunnar, you want to give context for the listeners?
Okay, so I was at Galax Fiddlers convention over the summer, and the Lindblom family was also there. And at Galax, there's some bluegrass and a lot of old time. And the Lindblom family is very bluegrass, and they got into a couple of old-time jams, and they were not enthused about it. They thought it was incredibly dull and boring.
To be honest, though, I think Libby probably thinks most people's playing is lots of things are dull and boring.
She thinks Tony Rice's playing is not good enough for the modern era.
She's probably like, Tony Rice, Tony Rice has got nothing on Jake Workman.
It's kind of hard when you take lessons from Jake Workman to not be jaded against everybody else.
She's a total fangirl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, old time. There's certain times when I like old time clawhammer banjo. Like I really like Dave Dillard's clawhammer banjo playing. I like Russ Carson's clawhammer banjo playing.
Oh yeah.
I like Russ Carson's everything.
Solo banjo playing in clawhammer style.
Um,
If we're gonna have a full old time jam and they're all playing at once, and there's like that weird little drum thing, and there's an accordion, and all
Cajun, and there's a guy playing.
Did you just call it a Cajun?
What are they called?
Cajon.
Anyway,
A Cajun is someone from Louisiana, Shaq.
It doesn't.
I don't know.
Incite any kind of real emotion in me.
It's
As
just-
it's
I have
versus if you get up, if you watch J.D. Crowe in the New South get up on stage and he kicks off East Virginia Blues in B flat with the sound of banger resonating through the entire. Yeah, it's completely different.
Okay, so
it serves a completely different purpose. But
Here's what I've noticed. Bluegrass music is more for the listener. It's a lot better for listening. Old time music, it does not care about the listener. Old time music is played solely for the purpose of the people playing it.
yes, yeah.
And then there's random 8 people who are clock dancing in the background.
And I honestly get at least as much enjoyment out of playing as old time as any other genre, and I find it to be.
But who listens to an old time album?
No, I mean,
Hey, Michael, I have a couple. I have some stuff. I'm gonna send you some music that I think you're gonna like. It has hammer dulcimer. It's some great instrumental hymn
Awesome.
music albums. There's like 5 of them.
Is it Ted
They're
Yoder?
great.
But yeah, the
No.
main thing with old time is with bluegrass, you get a sense that the song is moving forward, and sometimes it's moving forward at a very, very rapid rate.
Alarmingly
Alarming
fast.
At old time, you don't have as much of that drive. It's almost like it's kind of stagnant.
Wait,
Like it's just.
It's not that it's
saying that the
stagnant, but
song
it's
is
like a
moving.
lazy river. It goes around in circles really slowly.
Yeah.
I find, not to be mean, but I get bored.
Yeah.
From a
To
music
an
standpoint, because then
I
a lot of the tunes are so similar, and they don't have that little, like in a lot of even bluegrass tunes, a lot of them are really similar, but
Yeah.
in bluegrass you have enough jazz influence, you have enough stuff that's swingy, you have enough of everything that it makes that there's at least different types of, there's enough variety that I can at least that you don't get bored. But a lot of the old times tune, they're so similar, and they fall into like 3 categories, and then outside of that, is it a slip reel? Is it a slip jig? Is it a double jig? Is it a double reel?
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
Irish.
It's just it's not.
That's Irish.
Still old time. They play a lot of.
Y'all are making it
I
really
guess-
hard for me to come out as an old time musician.
How about jazz?
Gosh.
What does jazz make
Jazz
you feel?
sucks.
I like jazz.
Jazz?
I hate
What?
jazz.
What are you saying?
It's terrible.
I listen
It is
to
not terrible. I love
Everything that
jazz.
Scotty just said about old time applies to jazz, but even worse because the
Not-
tunes
No,
are
jazz
boring.
is
100%
not
true.
Jazz is the
Jazz-
absolute opposite.
When you
Jazz
okay,
the opposite,
when you have an extremely boring thing that you need music for, like an elevator ride, where do you turn? Jazz.
Bossa Nova.
But boring things require interesting music to get your mind off the
No,
boring
things
Exactly.
require boring music to make them even boringer, to make
So
you
here's
go
why
insane.
I like jazz. Bluegrass. It seems like a kind of a specific genre of music. There's a song. Each song kind of has a purpose. Jazz, unless it's
Jazz has no
a basic
purpose.
melody jazzed up. Jazz, it can go anywhere, and it really kind of opens up your mind. Not in like a weird way, but
Satanic way,
it
but
kind
in
of-
a
yeah, but
Too late.
It kind of, it kind of makes you contemplative. And when I listen to bluegrass, it kind of forces me into an emotion. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you feel stuff. But jazz, I could listen to a jazz song, and two people can listen to the same jazz song and feel different things.
Right, and you don't really.
That's why jazz is terrible.
No, it's great.
I like
And
jazz.
How are you supposed to
I like Christmas
indoctrinate
'cause it's
people
jazz.
if they can have free will, freedom of thought?
So, some jazz, like, okay, so I grew up watching Peanuts specials, so maybe I'm biased and I really like Vince Guraldi. But some jazz can get a little bit too out there
No, you can easily
and
get out.
just no melody. But the David Grisman Quintet, it is like, I don't know, fifth favorite band? I have no idea how to rank these bands.
You only like them
but
because
David
Tony
Grisman-
Rice.
No,
Let's see,
even when
it's-
Mark O'Connor was in it.
Guys, I just want to quickly list his favorite bands.
The Tony Rice
The,
Unit,
Blue-
J.D. Crowe and the New
No,
South,
wait.
the Bluegrass Boys,
no,
the
I'm-
Foggy Mountain Boys.
I
No,
wanna-
not the Bluegrass
I
Boys.
want to do it. I want to do it, guys. No, it's the Bluegrass Album Band. Why? Because Tony Rice.
Yes,
let's see.
Exactly. And Doyle Lawson and J.D. Crowe and Bobby Hicks and Todd Phillips.
And then
Jerry
it
Douglas.
goes the Tony Rice Unit, the Rice
Yes.
Brothers.
Were they a band? Like
Were they? I mean,
Rice Brothers?
No,
Yeah.
that was the Tony Rice Unit, with Wyatt
That was the
Rice
Tony
being
Rice
part of the unit.
I thought there was a different
Okay, so
one. Then
in all honesty, let me save you some time. The David Grisman Quintet, J.D. Crowe and the New South, to an extent, the Bluegrass Album Band, Doyle Lawson and Quicksilver.
Ricky Skaggs
Tony
and
Rice
Kentucky
Unit.
Thunder.
They're like, I don't know, 10th.
Shame. Travis Alltop and friends.
And then yes, even though they're not an official band, but they're why I play bluegrass or music
Because you're
in
friends
at all.
with them. Because
they're your
nepotism.
buddies.
Friends with them. No, because that's
Favoritism.
the first bluegrass I heard. It's because the first bluegrass I heard, so I'm biased to like that kind of bluegrass.
Do you prefer male or female vocalists?
So in all honesty, I like them both, but I don't like them together. If I want, when I listen to music, I either like to hear all male singers or all female singers, because there's something about the blend that I just don't like. There's times when it can be really, really good, but as a general rule, I really don't like it being blended together as much.
Okay, I'm the opposite. I either prefer men singing together or men and women singing together. I think if you have just women, you don't have nearly the
bass qualities.
it's very with like men they can have a very large different variety. No, men can range widely in their vocal ranges. So you can have men that can sing really high.
Especially if you have a really, really good
You can
tenor.
sing really, really high, and you can sing really, really low. So if you have a group of men singing, you have the possibility for them to have a very wide
I do
range.
like the contrast between a low bass singer and a high tenor singer.
I do agree with Scotty Moore.
Where with women, there tends to be much more similar, even though, yeah, you have an alto and sopranos
To an extent.
and different varieties of altos and sopranos. But it's still just about in that same. You're only going to get so high, and unless you have some crazy thing, you're not going to have much of a
So I don't
as
really.
much of a variety.
I don't like listening to really high female singers, with one exception, which is Alison Krauss. I mean, she's not.
But
she
even
doesn't
with
go
Alison
that
Krauss,
high.
it's that she has the guys there to
Yeah, and I much
sing with her.
I would much prefer an alto blended with a tenor, to then like a soprano blended
Yeah.
with a tenor.
I'm going
Yeah.
to provide an opposite opinion because I like to
we
be
all have to have different opinions.
Yeah. Well,
We have to be different if we're gonna do a
well,
podcast.
I also just happen to have a different opinion. I really like male and female voices blended, and I think that's like the ideal.
Yeah, that's what.
If you just have two people singing, ideally one would be a boy and one would be a girl, in my opinion. But if you're just gonna have one singer, I would say like 9 times out of 10, I would rather hear that singer be a girl. Maybe not like a super high pitched one, but like a decent alto.
Yeah.
I think sounds better. A lot of men's voices, they're like singing, but they don't sound melodic. It's almost like they're talking on pitch.
Like Johnny Cash?
Yeah, like a Johnny Cash where he's
Or
kind of
Bob Dylan?
Yeah, but like Johnny Cash, but like not
which
good.
kinda sounds like both.
Bob Dylan.
not good. Yeah.
I don't know. I really like listening to Tony Rice sing solo.
Yeah, a nice baritone is the easiest
Nice.
listening,
Tony,
easiest thing to
Okay.
listen to.
Tony
ever.
Rice singing Church Street Blues and play that video, the one that's
Yeah.
the Church Street Blues video,
but
the
I-
Church Street Blues video. That is the best. I mean, just
So
guitar
if you
and
haven't
voice.
noticed, Michael's a massive Tony Rice fanboy.
I'm doing like all kinds of gestures with my hands right
I-
now.
I
You
can
can't
im-
see
I
them.
can
shaking
imagine.
up and down because we can all imagine.
Anyway.
Okay, where so I have 3 sisters, right? And so we always sing together. Is my youngest brother, he never really sings with us.
Sad.
But normally when we would sing, it would be my 2 sisters, and then my oldest sister, she would be accompanying us on piano or something, and we would just sing. And I think that's where that's probably why I gravitate to either why I like men and women singing together versus Michael, where he doesn't think that. So that might be
I will say, I do like men and women singing together if it's maybe like 2 people or maybe 3 or 4. What I don't like is having a really, really high female harmony singer. That kind of takes away because the higher you get, the more kind of accepting our ears are to the sound. And so you probably notice like in all male quartets where the tenor overpowers the lead. Well, when you put a really high harmony part, it kind of detracts from the lead. So I always like the emphasis to be on the lead the most. But I mean, it's just me.
Right. Let's have a good
Yeah.
time. No, I made a joke. I was riding with my dad in the car. We were traveling, and we have our CD case, and we had an old big white van. So we had our CD case with all our CDs, and in one of the CDs in there, mixed in with, we have such a variety of music in that CD case. It's ridiculous. But one of them was the Stanley Brothers. It's the Amazing Grace. I think that's what it's called, Stanley Brothers Amazing Grace or something like that. And after about the 4th song, I looked over to my dad and said, I think this is less of an album and more of it's a how to sing tenor, because all you can hear is the tenor, and every time you sing, there's a tenor.
That sounds right.
So here's an interesting question. Let's say you have a male tenor and a male baritone, then an alto and soprano. Do you like the male to be singing lead or the female to be singing lead? If you're gonna have
The alto should be
Normally
singing
when
lead.
we had that situation, the soprano would normally, like I would sing with my sisters, I would sing baritone. My one sister would sing soprano, and then my one sister would sing alto, and then normally the soprano would have the melody. And we'd be stacked like that, and I think that's the best way to do it.
Yes, because I like that kind of stack, because if you have
Right.
too many harmony parts on top, it gets distracting.
I think the ideal is to have the lead have 1 harmony above the lead and 2 harmonies below the lead.
I think the ideal is just to have Doyle Lawson and Quicksilver.
I think the ideal is to just hand Dennis Parker a guitar and let him play.
I think having a part above the melody sometimes can take away from it. For sure.
It can if it is not done tastefully. But we're not talking about people with poor taste. We're talking about ideally. And ideally, you would have 1 part above the lead that blends well enough you can't tell them apart.
Yeah. If the lead goes pretty high, I don't like to hear the tenor belting out C5s the entire time. I would rather hear a low tenor. And that's
If I were to pick one, to only have one, I would do the melody be on the highest. The melody be the highest part. I just think that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
If I could only do one.
Well,
Yeah, it's a good combination.
the lovely thing about music is you don't have to only do one. So
I know, but I'm just saying that would be my opinion. Is I like that arrangement better.
Yeah. Is that what? Wasn't that the Osborne brothers that did that?
Yes, the Osborne stack, if you will.
The Osborne stack,
Yeah.
where you have
I
Bobby.
mean, that's not the official name, but that's what I call
Where
it.
you have Bobby singing in the 6th octave the entire time, and you have
Singing Ruby.
hitting that D8.
Ruby, are you mad at your man? Ruby, are you mad at that man?
So, what are we gonna do next? Are we gonna have a guest on this podcast at some point? I know
At some
we talked
point,
about
we're gonna
that.
have Gray. At some point, we should get Luke.
Yeah. We need to get a lot of people. I don't know.
Y'all
When do
can
you want
make
to have
a
a
list.
guest? Do you want to have a guest on next episode or the episode afterwards?
Let's not have Gray on next.
Not
Probably
not
should.
Gray.
We would have
can
way too
have-
much to edit out.
We can have him later.
For those of you who don't know who Gray is,
You
you
don't.
will find out when the episode comes.
I can't believe you would stop touring.
hey,
No, I want to get a better voice.
Bro.
I can't believe you would stop touring,
Anyway,
bro.
no, don't say that. No, we gotta edit that.